All right. So as it is 5:31 on August 7th, I will call our Topsfield School Committee meeting to order. And I will read this statement prior to us starting. So pursuant to Governor Healy's approved legislation, an act enabling certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, remote and hybrid public meetings are allowed to continue until June 30th, 2027. Therefore, this meeting of the Topsfield School Committee is being conducted via remote participation in order to ensure public access to the deliberations of the Topsfield School Committee. Public access can be attained by listening, viewing this meeting while in progress by following the teleconference information below. Members of the public attending this meeting virtually will be allowed to make comments if they wish to do so during the portion of the meeting designated for public comment by electronically raising their hand in the Zoom platform and being recognized by the school committee chair. So with that said, we'll do introductions. We'll do them based on how we sit at the table. So Mr. Greenberg, bat and lead off.
Steve Greenberg, Assistant Superintendent of Operations.
Scott Morrison, Superintendent of Schools.
Matt LaCavra, Assistant Superintendent of Student Services.
Oh, no, it's me, right? Andrew Prazar, Topsfield School Committee Chair.
Emily King, Topsfield School Committee.
Alyssa Gustin, Topsfield School Committee.
Carol Willa, Principal at Stewart.
And last but not least, Adrian Alford, Interim Principal of Proctor School.
Welcome, Adrian. Any remarks from the public? I see one member of the public here, but not sure if Mr. Larson wishes to speak. Does not look like he does, so we will move on to report of the superintendent.
Thanks, Andrew. Good to see everybody. Hope everyone is having a pleasant summer. The weather has been delightful for sure. I do want to echo what you said and welcome Adrian aboard to his first official Topsfield School Committee meeting. Adrian has been with us since the start of the summer and busy down at Proctor. He and I had a chance to meet a couple times already, once here and once down at Proctor, just as recently as today, just to continue to give him the lay of the land, and he's doing a great job making connections and developing relationships with people. I know he and Carol have been able to connect, and I'm really looking forward to strengthening that tie between Stewart and Proctor. I know that's a goal for all of us as we move forward. So we're excited to have Adrian on board. And Adrian, if you just want to do a quick little intro of yourself, a little bit of background, just so the committee knows a little bit more about you.
I can do, Dr. Morrison. So Adrian Alford, excuse me, live in Elliott, Maine. I know it seems like a far away, but it's really just up 95. My background, I've worked in K-5 building as a school counselor. I was a K-8 assistant principal, a principal in a 3-5 building, and assistant principal in a more traditional middle school setting. So I've been in different K-8 buildings for most of my professional career, and I worked in an alternative school for 3 years prior to being in public school. So I'm very much looking forward to my time here, and everything's been fantastic thus far.
Perfect. Thanks, Adrian. Looking forward to all getting to know you better and having you be part of the team this year. So a couple of updates from myself. In the drive is the efficiency study. So just as a reminder, there's a folder titled Efficiency Study. And in that folder is the efficiency study itself from Mary Ellen Norman. And so just as a reminder, we had our 2-year regionalization study that took place. And after the 2-year study, and Andrew was a big part of that and others as well, on the Topsfield School Committee. And through that work, we presented to the different select boards, and ultimately the feedback that we received was that folks kind of liked things the way they were, in the sense of keeping it as a superintendency union and having the identity and control in each of the individual towns, Topsfield, Boxford, and Middleton. And from that, we last year went to each of our school committees and asked our school committees if one of the offshoots from the regionalization study was, is there a way to make the tri-town more efficient? Is there a way to make our work more efficient? And so we worked with a consultant, Mary Ellen Norman, who put together a very in-depth report. It had 4 sections to it around operations and governance, developing people and culture, leveraging data and systems, and optimizing processes and methods. And that study was presented at the TTU school committee meeting in June. I think it was like June 6th or 7th or somewhere in that time frame. And knowing that it was A, June, and B, we have 3 members of each committee at the TTU meeting, we have asked Mary Ellen to come back in the fall to do a presentation of the Topsfield School Committee, a presentation to the Middleton School Committee, and a presentation of the Boxford School Committee. I think her findings are very relevant. She took a really deep dive, and I think there's a real opportunity for us to think about maybe how to build a better superintendency union in terms of some of the efficiencies that we can develop potentially. And she has a number of recommendations in there as well. So Steve and I actually just met with her today and had an opportunity to check with her schedule and see if she'd be able to join us at our fall meeting to come and do a bigger presentation, a little bit of a refresh of the report, because my ask of the committee, and Andrew, I will send this to you and the other chairs. Let me just write myself a note because I meant to do that earlier today. Chair's efficiency report. My request to all the committee members is to read and review it prior to the September meeting. It's pretty dense. It's about 60, 70 pages, but there's a lot of information in there. So just take the time, if you can, in the next couple of weeks to go through it and mark it up, and if any questions you might have. And then we would ask Mary Ellen to come and do, sort of a 25% presentation on the report, because the understanding will be that folks have kind of digested most of it. And then kind of 75% presentation on, and this is potentially what a picture could look like if we decided to move ahead with some of the things that she recommends in the report under those 4 areas that we just discussed. So that is in there for the committee to review, and I think it will make for good discussion in the months ahead in terms of are there ways to make the Tri-Town more efficient, where we know regionalization is not something on the agenda. So happy to stop there and take any questions anyone may have on that. Seeing none, I will roll into Crest amended articles of agreement. And so this is just more of an update than anything else. So in our spring, or might have been the May or June meeting, I brought the Crest articles of agreement to the committee to review. Crest is one of our 2 public consortiums that we are partners of, and we are member communities of. And what they wanted to do in their articles of agreement was to have the opportunity to charge non-member districts more tuition. It was set kind of in stone in the current articles of agreement. They wanted more flexibility to be able to charge a higher tuition rate for non-member districts. And so I just wanted to report back to the committee that that was approved at DESE. And so the Crest articles of agreement have been approved and amended, and those will now be in effect. An interesting little byproduct, speaking of inefficiency, an interesting little byproduct of when they brought them to DESE to review them. DESE said, well, wait a minute, why does the Tri-Town schools have 1 vote when, as a board member, we don't recognize them as a 1 school district school, so the Tri-Town should have 3 votes. So I'm clearly holding that over all my colleagues' heads that we now have 3 votes in the Tri-Town. And quorum could be very difficult if I am either there or not there, but where we represent 3 separate towns. But it's funny that inefficiency sort of extends even into the board. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me that we would get, it makes sense to me literally, but that we would get 3 votes because we're 3 separate towns. But it's a little odd that I'll be voting now 3 times at those meetings. Once is Topsfield, once is Boxford, once is Middleton. So, what's even weirder is NEC doesn't do it that way. The North Shore Education Consortium, it's 1 vote. So I don't know. It feels like a little bit of mixed signals coming from DESE, but that's how they wanted to do it at Crest. So that is that. And again, that's just more of an informational update more than anything else. And then just the final update from me. I wanted to take the committee through. My 10th year is starting this year in the Tri-Town. And a lot of the work we did in the second 5 years was built upon a lot of the work we did in the first 5 years. And a lot of the foundational pieces that came to be, and a lot of the surveying we did, and communication out to the community, and data collection, and the development of our vision and our pillars, and so on and so forth. And so entering my 10th year and thinking more about it this summer, that our boards have changed over that time. More recently, we've brought more new staff members in over that time. Leadership team has changed over that time. And so I think it's important to always go back and just revisit a little bit of our history to understand sort of from whence we came. And so what I've been doing at the school committee meetings, I did it with the leadership team this summer. I'm going to do it with the staff at our opening day staff meeting. It's just, there's a reason why our vision is our vision and our pillars is our pillars. It's because we are enacting an agenda that was communicated to us by our communities. And it goes all the way back to 2016 when I first got here in July 1st of 2016. And during that time frame, I had put together, as typically you do when you're coming into a new district, an entry plan. And this is just a screenshot. This is from 2016. But I originally, when I got here, met with the left-hand column there. These are all Word documents of the town administrator and school committee members at the time, and FinCom and Select Board and Fire and Police. And then in the second column, you can see maybe some more familiar names, because that's the Topsfield column of folks that had served in different capacities. Masco folks that were in department heads or leadership at the time. And then on the right there is the Boxford folks that I had talked to. And along with all these individual conversations, we sent out a survey to staff, we sent out a survey to families, and we collected a lot of data and asked them, what's the strengths of our school district? What are some areas that we could grow in, and so on and so forth. Around that same time, I was pursuing my doctorate, and all the data that I had collected for my doctorate was using a program called Max QDA. And as you can see there, it's the world leading software for qualitative and mixed methods data analysis. And I thought, geez, I got all this data from the school district, doing a data analysis for my doctoral report. I'm going to take all of that data and dump it into Max QDA so it can help code it for us, figure out what the themes are, figure out what the sub-themes are, and help to build the feedback that we had received from everybody back in 2016. And so these are just some screenshots of how Max QDA works. And you can see like the towns on the left there, we had it all coded by towns. And then the lower left there was the code system, like enrichment came up and learning environment came up 34 times and facilities only came up once, and so on and so forth. And then these are direct quotes over on the right-hand side. And again, just a couple other screenshots from Max QDA of how we dumped all the information in. And what ultimately it produced was this coded document that allowed us to see what were the things that were appearing the most often, what were the things that people were talking about the most. And so in 2016, the 5 themes were our strengths, our defining qualities, the growth opportunities, future challenges, and our dream big. Like, what are some things we want to think about? And you can see under each one of them the sub-themes, school staff and high expectations. I'm just going to name a few. And defining qualities was class size and high expectations. And you can see what our growth opportunities were. Future challenges, budget, personalizing learning, keeping up with tech. And then as we dream big, we talked about project-based learning and real-world experiences for kids, and so on and so forth. And so what's interesting about our school district, and I think what separates the Tri-Town from other places, one of the things that separates the Tri-Town from other places is that we're a pre-K to 6. And when you work in a pre-K to 12, you have families for 12, 13 years, because if they start in kindergarten, first grade, they graduate in high school, you have those families for a long time. Well, in the Tri-Town, we have families for 6, 7 years, right? Depending upon if they get here in KL1. And so what we realized was, and before I get to that, so hold on one second, because there was a slide in between. So all of this work led us to the development of this map, right? This was back in 2016. We said, let's plant the flag in 2028, because in 2028, that's when our KN1 kids will be graduating from, if they decide to go to Masco, will be graduating from Masco. So although we only have control of half of that journey up till 6th grade, we want to make sure that while they're with us, this was some of the feedback that we heard. These are the mile markers on our highway. And our sort of early vision statement was developing innovative, global, and collaborative learners, leaders, and thinkers with core knowledge, competency, skills, and dispositions. And we planted that flag in 2028 because that was about 12 years from 2016, and that would be about a generation of kids as they move forward. But again, as they said a minute ago, for us, one of the key pieces we realized was our families that were with us in 2016 wouldn't be with us for the most part by the time we get to 6 years later, because they'll be on to 6th and 7th grade. And so what we did in 2022 is we replicated the entire thing. And as you can see from this, this is a communication that went out back in the summer of 22. Now entering my 7th year. It was 6 years ago that we surveyed all 3 towns. It led to the roadmap for us in the future. And in our district, second paragraph, by the time our K1 kids were with us in 16, they'd be out of our district by 22. So for the most part, we'd have a new generation of families. We're cognizant of the fact that we have families with multiple aged children, but we would have definitely new generations of families coming in. So we replicated the entire process. I did max QDA again. I dumped all the data in, we surveyed staff, we surveyed families, we collected all the information, and we put all that in. And the themes that emerged, you start to see a few differences in 22 from 2016, and I'll show you a side-by-side in a minute. One of them around future challenges, just coming off of COVID at that time, you could see divisiveness that wasn't there before. People were worried about as a challenge, the divisiveness and the politics of things, and well-being was something that began to emerge as a future challenge as well that wasn't there before. So this is the 16 themes and sub-themes and the 22 themes and sub-themes. And school staff continue to be, a strength of our district, and the work that we do and the programs that we offer. And the defining qualities, you see class size emerge, whether it be as a strength or as a defining quality. Growth opportunities, future challenges, and then this idea of dreaming big and, what are some areas that we want to focus on. So then to take the 2022 data a little bit further so you can see what some of it looked like these were exact quotes from some folks along the way. So under the theme of strengths, school staff, that was a direct quote from somebody in communication, and all learners, preparing students for the future by building on their needs. In terms of defining qualities, the sense of community in our district, again, these were all direct quotes from people, the collaboration, excellence in science and reading and math. Growth opportunities, can we continue to do more around after school programming? Can we continue to do more for our multilingual families? And we've used these as, feedback loops for our teams to work on those things. Future challenges, again, you see well-being and divisiveness start to emerge. I think that mental health and supporting mental health across student staff will be an ongoing area. Divisiveness, politics, and people's agendas when school should be about academics. Again, that was 2 years removed from, somewhat of a turbulent COVID ride that all of public education went through across the country. And then dream big, can we look at leadership and collaboration as skills to develop, and financial concepts and real world experiences, and so on and so forth. And again, all of this continued to reinforce. It was nice to see that in 22, there was a lot of feedback that was similar. The community was still articulating what they saw as the needs of the district and where they wanted the district to go. And it continued to reinforce our vision of our Tri-Town School Union, the sort of path to 2028. And then our pillars, right? The innovative thinking, the the innovative teaching, the social emotional learning, and the inclusionary practices. And as this committee has heard me say before, what's been fun, enjoyable, reinforcing for us to see in the Tri-Town is that DESE's educational vision, I'll go back to those other slides in a minute, DESE's vision has started to match ours, right? Learning experiences are relevant, real world, and interactive. All students are known and valued, and individualized supports enable students to excel at grade level. And it's been fun for us that this is just last year, DESE came out with this, and it very much aligned with the goals that we have around innovative teaching practice, which is create a dynamic learning environment that cultivates creativity, problem solving, innovation, fostering social emotional learning, developing and strengthening self-management, social awareness, self-efficacy, and growth mindset. And then our culture of inclusivity, recognizing, respecting, and welcoming the individuality of students and staff, and embracing new ideas and thinking. And it's nice to see how that has all aligned, and DESE has kind of aligned with some of the work we're doing, which has been fun for us as a team to kind of see that happen. And then kind of the mind-blowing thing for all of us as we talk about this, in 2016, when we talked about 12 years down the road, we were talking about 2028, and that'll be the next year that we do this all over again. We will resurvey everybody, and right now we're halfway through a cycle with all of our newer families that joined us in 2022. In the 2025 year, right now we're halfway through that. So in 2028, when we do this again, well, we'll be laying down that 12-year map again. And this sounds like a fake number to me, 2040. It literally sounds, I don't know why, like 2028 didn't sound fake. 2040, for whatever reason, in my head sounds very fake. But that'll be the next sort of iteration that we roll into when we survey the communities again and dump it all back into max QDA and see what the feedback is. We'll be talking about what does that roadmap look like to 2040. So as I said, I just thought it was important as we have new and more people that are joining us that maybe weren't here for the first 5, and the work that we did in the second 5 years and how that built on that, to kind of get a better sense and understanding of how the vision came to be, how the pillars came to be, and how all of it is really trying to execute on the feedback from our communities across the 3 towns. So I will stop there.
Thank you for the overview. I just did some quick math, and I will not be part of the school committee in 2040 when we see the end of this road for the next crisis. Because I will be
Andrew,
retired
by my
then,
gray
hopefully.
hair, I think it's fair to say by 2040, I will not either. By 2040, yes.
I thought it was cool. No, I appreciated the side by side, the 2016, 2022, which I assume we did back then again. But it is interesting to see how people's interpretation of the district's strengths and weaknesses and things like that has changed over time.
Yeah.
But also nice that Desi and our district are aligned.
Yeah, that's been, as I say, it's been good to see. And we've always tried to plant the flag in the future, as we say, and we appreciate the work that our principals do to, develop our kids' passions at the same time while building upon, the academics that we have to build upon so they can be successful in their endeavors. So,
any other comments or feedback? Hello, Brendan.
Hey everybody, sorry for my delay.
hey, Brendan.
Quite all right. All right. So then we are moving on to the report of the Assistant of Superintendents of Operations.
All right.
Mr.
Good
Greenberg.
evening, everyone. What's included in the drive is I'll call it the preliminary closeout for FY25. We have submitted the closing journal entries to Town Hall, and so it will be finalized once we do our last reconciliation with Town Hall for FY25. You can look at the financials. I think that we ended up in a healthy situation, and the ending balance you'll see is $163,340. What that represents is $50,000 for stabilization, $50,000 for the special education reserve, and then the remainder going back to the town. All of the other fund balances are in good shape, and that will be part of our discussion and planning for FY27 and possibly 28. I will stop right now and answer any questions that the committee may have with regard to the FY25 financials. Seeing none. What's in front of you now is a quick presentation update as we are rolling into, believe it or not, the development of the FY27 budget. And I'm just going to go through some bullet points here that we've put together. Budget development is currently underway. Our goal is not to need an override for FY27, to have a draft budget to the committee by late fall that'll be about 90 to 95% complete. And the reason why I say that is we will still be waiting for the salary forms from Unit A staff to determine where they will be on the salary grid compared to where they are now. And that is to budget for levels. There'll be maybe some other things that will be a moving target, which will be, of course, special education. We need to emphasize that special education will continue to be a moving target, the challenges that come with it. We do not see any break anytime soon. So I think the committee needs to be prepared that we will still have more challenges associated with special education needs as we go forward. So when we look at the budget development for the non-salary expenditures, we'll be focusing on known contractual obligations. A strategy that we will be considering will be using FY25 actuals plus an inflation factor of 2.5%, possibly level funding or reducing certain non-salary expenditures depending on the history and the circumstances. And we could be phasing out the appendices for FY27. As we go into this next slide real quick, a potential budget guideline of 2.5% means an increase of about $313,473. Budget drivers will continue to be salaries. We have a contractual obligation for transportation, and the moving target is always going to be special education and special education transportation. Areas that we will continue to watch that will have an impact on the FY27 applied funding mechanisms will be applied income, and seeing and making every effort to make sure that the 202,000 that was put into the operating budget for FY26 stays in the budget to support education, direct education for 27 and future budget years. I will answer any questions that the committee may have regarding that strategy and FY27 budget development.
So you could just talk a little bit about how ClearGov allows us to project salaries a little bit further into the future than maybe we were able to before.
Well, we have a negotiated agreement, so it will definitely give us the 27 numbers and the 28 numbers. So we can get very specific with unit costs, if you will, annual salary costs, and we can be specific about level movement. I mean, step movement, where we are going to have to make an assumption in 27, not so much 27, but 28 and going forward will be column movement for unit A and column movement for unit B. And in past for negotiations, we would make an assumption when we were costing out proposals. So we would probably take that same approach. Look at history with regard to the value of column movement for unit A and use that kind of number as part of our forecasting for the budget. Now with ClearGov, when we developed the model in ClearGov for the first year in 26, we put together a 5-year forecast. And the 5-year forecast was very specific line by line. And we used specific increases for each cost category. So salaries, we made a certain assumption of 4%. Consumables, we made 3%. Professional development level funded. Special education, I think we used 5%. So we used that kind of strategy to go out 5 years. And ClearGov made that much easier and much more efficient in terms of that development. And as we're developing 27 and we continue to push that model forward and to, put out what will be, I believe, FY32, that we will employ that same strategy. But the other footnote with that is now that I'm doing the personnel module, I think we can get more specific with salaries for 29, 30, and 31, but we will have to make assumptions on COLAs, since that contract will need to be negotiated.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And then in terms of, hoping to avoid an override next year, obviously you highlighted we will continue to work with our town partners to see if we can retain that 202 in our budget next year, plus, this assumption of a guideline, hopefully around 2 or 2.5, depending on, again, what we get from them. In the past, that alone probably wouldn't have been enough, but given our favorable applied income possibilities, we are hoping to avoid an override if possible next year.
That is absolutely correct.
Okay.
Everything is subject to change. I can't stress that enough. But looking at everything right now and assuming things remain consistent, that I believe it is fair to say that it is a reasonable goal to shoot for no override for FY27.
All right. Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Greenberg? All right. Not seeing any.
Steve,
All
just to
right.
put a finer point on what Andrew just said too, it sounds, again, I want to make sure I heard you right, that the goal of no override is sort of a contingent of that 202 being part of that calculus?
Absolutely, it is a contingent. And yes, think about that factor. If that is not part of it, the override, and we lose that, it becomes a bigger strain. And we're going to have to talk that through and see if we can still realize the goal of no override for 27.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we've been singing from that hymnal for many years, all the years I've been on here, so it wouldn't be unexpected certainly, but obviously we will do everything that we can to mitigate an override if possible. Next is audit reports.
Yes, sir. In the drive is the audit report for the FY24 end of year report. So just as a refresher for the committee, every year we have to submit a very detailed report to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education that accounts for how we spent every dollar, not just on the school's operating budget, but all of our revolving accounts, our grants, warrant articles, and school-related costs that the town has incurred. And so that is done through various schedules that we must complete within the end of year report. And when that end of year report is completed and submitted to the state, we must also have an independent audit of that end of year report where certain questions are asked and they will test that end of year report. So when you look at the end of year report, you'll see that it's not a long one, which I will take as a good thing. The shorter the audit report, the better we did. There are a couple variables that we will, continue to work on and try to make it better. But for the most part, I'm very, very pleased with that report. And I will answer any questions the committee may have.
Steve, the only question I had on that is there was one thing where it said report of encumbrances as of 12/31 was not provided. Why do we have to report at the end of the calendar year and not the fiscal year?
That's
Wouldn't that be when we would do it?
That could be that's a good question on that one. And of course, I'm more than happy to send anybody that information because really by the end of September, early October, we're not allowed to spend that. Right. So if we have something left, what I've reported, it should reconcile exactly to what you see in that end of that financial report. Specifically $9,266.20. So I think that's one of those things where Desi says, hey, I want, this is going to be one of our audit tests. And the other thing too is I don't remember anybody asking, as far as the audits are concerned, with all due respect to the auditors, anybody asking for that report as of 12/31. I can see a couple of other things like transportation. I said, look, we have a ridership of 600. I'm not going to sit there and hunt down a list of all the kids, even though I know I could get it, because we don't get any reimbursement. So what's the point on that schedule? It's like, guys, if you start giving us reimbursement and you go back to what you were doing 15 years ago, I'll absolutely give that to you. But I'm not going to go hunt down that list, especially since we're not getting anything for it. So I put in an arbitrary number to satisfy the report. But, when they want that test, that's my argument. You're not reimbursing me. You're not giving me anything for it. So what's the point? If it was a regional school district, absolutely.
Yeah. Any other questions on the audit report? All right, we'll move on to the principals for summer updates.
Thank you.
Hello. No time like the present to jump right in. I can say that first and foremost, everybody who's been popping into the school to see me has been amazing. I have had nothing but help from everybody from central office down to people in my building, and I can say it's not always how it is. So it's been really fantastic working along with my colleagues so far. Jen Hutt has definitely kept me on the straight and narrow. So I'm very thankful she's been popping in on me. She's been fantastic. But outside of that, we've had our custodians really grinding away, making the building look beautiful. We're a little short-staffed in that part. I know Steve Clifford's looking to hire some people right now. I know he's been sifting through a bunch of resumes, but the two guys we have right now have been fantastic. The place is looking great considering there's only really two of them. We're still trying to hire a school adjustment counselor, a reading specialist. That has been a little more tricky. And as you know, we're getting to the embers of summer. So hopefully I can procure a couple people there. But overall, just kind of getting a lay of the land and understanding, not getting lost in the building. So it's been a busy summer, but I've got to see a couple of kids I had one young lady who was ecstatic that I like hockey. I'm a little terrified because she likes hockey already. I'm guessing she's way better than me, but growth mindset, I'm still going to play her. The kids have been popping in. They've been eager to meet me. I've been eager to meet them, and it's been fantastic. It's been a great summer.
Great. Great. And then welcome again, Adrian. It's been awesome to have that collaboration. So a thank you to the steward custodians, Glenn, Brandon, and Sydney. It's nice to have a team of 3. We haven't had that in the last 4 summers. So they're doing a fantastic job getting our school ready. And it really shows the importance of making sure that there isn't that swing custodian between the 2 buildings and having 3 permanent people in our budget because there's so much to do. What we're seeing this summer is a lot of quality applicants. Not that we haven't had quality applicants in the past 2 years, but the application pool is just bigger and the quality has been fantastic. Even teachers that don't have a lot of in classroom teaching experience, their interviews have just been have restored my confidence in some of the upcoming generation of teaching staff because the last 2 years was just a little bit more fascinating in terms of hiring. And we've seen that both not only in the teaching positions, but in instructional assistant positions and support staff positions. And I really do think that speaks for the consistency of the leadership in our district. So a big thank you to central office because the word is out there that the Tri-Town is the place to be. So that's good to hear. We welcome Elizabeth Romeo, kindergarten teacher, Corey Cooper as a behavior specialist. We're still hiring 2 IAs, and they're actually moving in forward in the process this week through central office. Our preschool is still at 57 students. We were able to get 2 kids off the wait list. We still have 4 kids on the wait list. We are at 21 sections total. We're down 1 grade 2 section. That was all, all through the budget process. Kindergarten is our second highest grade level right now. So they are going to have around 18 kids in a class because there are only 4 sections. So we're really looking at staffing and how to support those classrooms. 18 is a little bit high for Topsfield and especially at the kindergarten level, but we are going to make it work with staffing. And then grade 1 is about 15 a class, grade 2 is about 16 a class, and grade 3 is about 15 a class. So kindergarten, first and second are 4 sections. Grade 3 is 5 sections. Again, it's not about the number of students, but it's about the needs and the makeup of the students. So we're welcoming 10 new families, 3 who registered on Monday. So that was great. And we're excited and hope that next Monday, brings the same, just not at the kindergarten level. But it's really been fantastic connecting with the new families. We're looking forward to popsicles with the principal on 8/20. The same will be at Proctor. And then the first day with staff on 8/25 and 8/26. Proctor Day is not the same date, just the same event. And then we welcome our grade 1 through 3 students on 8/27. Our kindergarten orientation and bus ride on 8/28, and then the first day of school for pre-K and K on the 2nd. So we're looking forward to another year.
Thank you. We need to talk to realtors in the area and tell them to stop all home sales around June so we get consistent projections for incoming class sizes.
Right.
I don't think they go for that though.
Sorry, just to echo a couple things Carol said, and Carol also entering her 10th year. She's now the senior principal of the 6 across the Tri-Town. So Carol was in that sort of senior seat in the Tri-Town. And just to echo a couple of things that she talked about, one of which staffing wise, I would agree the pool, it's been fun to see when you post a position and we're getting 30, 40 applicants for a job, and it's always been leaner in some other years. And Carol sent to me, I think, a B1, and a B1 is a bachelor's 1, right? Someone fresh out of school. And when she talks about sort of restoring, our understanding of what it could look like in the future, it's just a great conversation. I always ask the principals to send everyone over to central office for me to meet, whether it's a teacher, an IA, a facility staff member, whatever the role is. I want to meet everybody who comes into the organization. And it's always been a pleasure to meet some of our B1s, and we've actually had one from each town this year, which is very rare. Have a bachelor's step 1 person, and they all have been tremendous in terms of their maturity and enthusiasm and excitement to join us. So we're looking forward to a great year ahead for sure.
Awesome. Look forward to meeting them. Thank you, principals, for those reports. And now on to new business, gifts and grants.
So I believe, let me double check, but I believe in the drive for tonight in the gifts and grants folder, we have 2 items. We have a cell signaling grant, cell signaling technology, education and science committee has finished reviewing and are happy to announce your grant has been partially funded at 4,500. This is Paige and the work she's doing as the K-6 math science curriculum person. So we have that in there for 4,500 for the committee to accept. And then we have New England Biolabs, NEB Community Grants has awarded your request in the amount of 1,800 for sustainability and climate education programs woven into the curriculum. So these are 2 gifts that we would need the committee to approve, 2 separate motions for each of those dollar amounts.
All right, I will make a motion to accept the gift from Cell Signaling Technologies in the amount of $4,500.
Second.
All those in favor, Andrew Prazar, aye.
Emily King, aye.
Melissa Gustin, I.
Brendan Gahagan, aye.
And I will make a motion to accept the grant from New England Biolabs Community Grants Committee in the amount of $1,800.
Second.
All those in favor, Andrew Prazar, aye.
Emily King, aye.
Melissa Gustin, I.
Brendan Gahagan, aye.
Thank you all. Rolling into the next agenda item, Matt will take this one, but we talked a little bit about this at our last meeting, a collaborative effort with the North Shore Education Consortium. In the drive, you will see a folder titled NEC, and then in that folder, you will see, let me just go here and here, and then here, you'll see this document, which talks a bit about a program that's being developed. So Matt, if you want to take it from there.
Well, hi everyone. So this is a follow-up to some conversations that we had in the spring about program development in the district and some of the different ways we're going to look at it to kind of not only develop programming for the current cohort of kids, but also try to look at it in a way that we can create a sustainable program for years in the future. So we have talked about developing a language-based learning disabilities program in the Tri-Town for a number of years. We are back around and having those conversations, and we did all last year. And it led us to talking about staffing structures, program structures, what curriculum we need, what training we need to make sure that we have. And so we did all of that work all of last year, and we were excited to be able to pull the program together to be starting in the fall of this coming year. One of the things that was also part of the discussion was what can we make different about this program that could possibly help it be more sustainable, knowing that our schools are small, right? And we have a small population of students, and our students cycle through our buildings fairly quickly. When you look at a 4 to 6 building, that's a quick time in and out. And so cohorts and needs of students change fairly quickly. And so I approached Fran Rosenberg several months ago, who is the executive director of the consortium. And, we just started brainstorming, and I brought up this idea of a partnership, a program that's developed in our district with our staff, with our expertise in partnership with the consortium, so that it could be a program that can be utilized by all of our 15 member districts. And in fact, in the end, when we did pull it together, we're not only offering it to our 15 member districts, but we also created a structure where if you're not a member of NEC, you can actually refer a student to our program as well. So it was one of those situations where it fills a need on their end because they do not offer a program like this currently. And then it filled the need on our end because we were able to develop this program and we're excited about it. And it now will allow us to accept students from the surrounding districts and help support our collaborative as well. There is a tuition structure that was developed. Steve and I sat down and kind of really talked about the cost of the program up and running and kind of breaking down the staffing and all of that. And we did develop a tuition associated with the program. So if any student is referred to the program and ends up being accepted into the program, the sending district will be paying a tuition directly to Topsfield Public Schools. Like I said, it is Topsfield staff, and it'll be a proctor. I've talked to Adrian quite a bit about it. We have the teacher who is going to be running the program is trained in all the different areas that you can see in this brochure, and yeah, we're very excited to to be able to build a program. We were excited about the prospect of the partnership with the consortium, and if it proves to be a successful partnership, it could be something that we could also see kind of expanding into different programming for different level of needs across some of our different buildings as well. So that will be up and running as of the first day of school.
That's great. I know this has been a long time goal, certainly as long as I've been on this committee, to be able to pull something like this off. Do we know how many? Well, maybe you can't say how many. I assume we have a number of students in district who will be part of this classroom. Do we know how many seats are available for out of district students?
Yeah. So the way yes. So basically, the way we built it, I'll say it this way: the way we built the tuition structure was around 8 students in the classroom. And what I'll say is, because it's a tuition-based program, if we get to the point where there's more students being referred that we feel are appropriate for the program, right? And I'll talk about that for a second. But if we get to that point, we could always consider expanding the program, utilizing the funds that are coming in from the tuition, right? So this is, if we get to a point where we have 10 kids or 12 kids and we want to do it maybe a grade 3 program and then a 4-5 program, I mean a grade 4 program and then a 5-6 program, we might consider doing that. It'll all depend on kind of what the referrals look like. The other thing I didn't mention, which I do think is an important point, is even though we're flowing through the consortium, the referrals will be coming directly to us, and we will kind of quote unquote be in charge of the referral process, which both Fran and I thought was very important set up of the structure. So because it is our program, our buildings, right? So it's going to be a situation where we'll become the out of district placement, and we'll follow the typical process where we'll look at the referral, the IEP, the reports that are sent on the student, all that. And if we think it may be a fit, then we'll have the student come visit, we'll have the parents come visit. We might go see that student in their current placement, right? So that's all going to be done within our district. We're going to be the ones that control the referrals.
Great. Yeah, this seems like a win-win. We get to keep some of our students in district where they're with their peers and their friends, and also an opportunity to bring in some additional income through out of district tuitions. So thank you, Matt, for putting that all together.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a quick question.
Yep.
How will this work for Topsfield students then? Are they automatically referred in? Do they have to go through an application process?
Oh yeah, no. This is thank you for asking that. This is a Topsfield program first and foremost, right? If the team in Topsfield makes a recommendation for this program for the student, they will always 100% have a place in this program.
Okay. And do our families know about this now for the upcoming year?
Any families that we've been working with over the several months are aware of this program. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Oh,
I was just wondering if you've presented to CPAC, or I know Candace is not, she probably knows, but.
Yeah, we kind of laid the foundation a little bit at the last school committee meeting. And then it really just went that brochure that you have in the drive, and the kind of official announcement just went live about 2 weeks ago. And so the first thing we were going to do was go through we had the full cycle of school committee meetings this week. So this is the kind of official announcement of the program through the school committees. And then like I saw Jackie on Monday, Jackie Dubois, and we talked about setting up a time that we can work with CPAC to have a conversation as well.
I'd just like to also echo, thank you for putting it together. I think it's great to have revenue streams when we can, and to be supporting the kids. And there's definitely this whole, sometimes for these kids who are not behavioral, but need a specialized environment. So that's great.
Thank you.
All right, on to the TTU pre-K program review. And I feel like this is Matt again.
Yeah, it's kind of a Matt and I combo, I would say. Under the same umbrella of revenue development, Matt and I and Brian, we've been talking about our pre-Ks have grown and expanded in each of the towns, depending upon the context and the condition of those towns. And they've all sort of, if you think of it as like a bush with sort of three stems on it. You know, Topsfield's kind of grown this way, Boxwood's this way, and Middleton's sort of this way. And as they've continued to grow, we want to sit, Matt and Brian and I, as just as a start, and then we will be asking our principals and others to join us as well, but just almost like lay side by side programmatically, like here's what Topsfield pre-K looks like, here's what Boxford pre-K looks like, here's what Middleton pre-K looks like, here's the extended day programs in each of the towns, here's this, that, or the other thing. And part of that is, are we right priced? I think we're a very good deal, our preschools, when you compare them to the privates. And so it's looking at that as well to make sure from a pricing perspective, as Carol talked about, there's waiting lists, and you've heard Matt say that in the past, and there's waiting lists in all three towns. And I think there's a benefit to children coming to our pre-K because now they're a footer in the door as a 3-year-old, 4-year-old, and they know us, we know them, and we roll right into kindergarten and off we go kind of a thing. And so we're going to take a little bit of a deeper dive on Monday, as a matter of fact. We've reserved some time in all of our calendars to start to do some of that comparative work. Matt, I know if you want to talk a little bit about your ultimate vision, that would be a fantastic thing, but I think that would take a lot more planning.
Yeah, it's a little more planning. Kind of in line with Andrew's consolidation building. One of the things that I have thought about over the years is a lot of districts do have a centralized preschool. They have a kind of their own building for preschool. We've looked into it over the years. I do think there's some immense benefit of having the kids in the schools that they're going to be going to for lower elementary, right? So that would be the reason not to centralize the preschool is to there's a great benefit to having the kids like at Stewart for a number of years possibly before they move into kindergarten and kind of go from there. We have a little bit of a quirk over in Middleton where the preschool's at Hal Manning. It's not even at Fuller Meadow, so it's actually an extra transition for them. But I think to Scott's point, before you even have some of those conversations, what we need to do is really take a look at the individual programs themselves. And I'll say this, the philosophy and the instructional methods and the ability to serve a various levels of need is the same across the three towns, right? That's what is consistent, is our instructional methods and our philosophy. What's not consistent is some of the offerings that we're able to provide and some of the extended day options that we're able to provide. So I think that's where we need to kind of dial in a little bit more and then and see what that means. I mean, right now we just, as a really quick thumbnail, like Boxford has 2 classrooms, Middleton has 3 classrooms, Topsfield has 4 classrooms, right? So that alone makes the offerings very different. And so I think our big first conversation piece is, let's put all this on paper and in a grid and see where we're at. But again, instructional and philosophy and philosophical approach are similar. It's just the offerings that are different.
That's more to come, but we're starting that process.
All right. Yeah, when we get the Andrew Prather Memorial Consolidated Elementary School built out back behind Proctor, we'll make a nice big area for the preschool.
Perfect.
That's good.
I guess if it's a memorial school, I'll have to be dead first, which is probably
don't want
not
that to
accurate
happen.
for that timeline in Topsfield, though.
Yeah.
All right. Opening days of school.
Yeah, these are just some quick hits. In the drive is the approved calendar for the year. At the summer meeting, we always just like to restate that August 25, our teachers and all staff return. That's the Monday prior to Labor Day. So we have our teachers and staff for 2 days, August 25, August 26th. The 27th is the first day of school for 1st through 6th graders. Same on the 28th. So day 1 and day 2 are August 27, August 28th, as has been our practice for the past several years. That Friday before Labor Day weekend is no school, so it's a long Labor Day weekend for everybody. And then we roll back on 9/2, and then our kindergarten kids join us on 9/2. So we have the first 2 days of school, the first sort of week opening with 1 through 6, and then kindergarten rolls in the following week. Schedule continues to work well. The feedback we get on that sort of start with 2 days and then 4 days, particularly with our youngest learners who are, kind of just ramping up and getting back into school. We invariably have someone fall asleep on a bus that first week of school that we have to track down. So that model of 2 days and then 4 days has been a nice entry in. Andrew, before I go to cell phone usage, if I can just go through some of these other quick hits, if that's okay. The signatory page, I think everybody has signed it. Colleen will be in touch if not, but I believe we have everybody's signature on the signatory page for bills and payroll. Topsfield School Committee meeting dates, Colleen put in the drive. And I think you had this at the last meeting, but just again, all of our meeting dates starting on September 4th. So Topsfield will be first out of the gate once the school year starts. It usually goes Middleton, Topsfield, Boxford, but because of Labor Day, it'll be Topsfield, Middleton, Boxford in the month of September. So our first meeting is on the September 4th at Proctor. Middleton has the wheel for the TTU meetings this year, and so they will follow the Middleton School Committee meetings. Middleton School Committee meetings start at 5:30, and so we'll start the TTU meetings at around 7:15 or so. Jackie is the chair of that, along with being the chair of the Middleton School Committee. And so those dates are in red in the drive, and those will be October, December, March, and June. So those are the Topsfield and TTU meeting dates. Possibly one of the worst kept secrets in the history of the Tri-Town schools is that it is Mr. Greenberg's final year here in the Tri-Town School Union. And so we have a big task in front of us in terms of filling that role. I said to Brian sort of early summer that much like real estate, when the house goes for sale, but it's not really for sale yet, the realtors put a coming soon sign out in front of it. And so I asked Brian to create a coming soon flyer because we want to be very early out of the gate. Finance and operations people are hard to find in a school district, and I am somewhat concerned that they may be even harder to find when you have to do 3 budgets and not 1. And so Brian had put this together, a little 1-pager that Steve has sent out to his listserv. I have sent out to the North Shore Roundtable group. Brian has sent out to the HR listserv as well, with the goal being that we will be posting this in the fall and beginning the process of finding a new assistant superintendent of finance and operations. So that will be a big part of the year ahead. That's a search that we will do very early in the school year, with the hope that we can have some degree of transition over the course of the school year where Steve is exiting and a new person is entering. And there's a little bit of a carrying and the passing of the baton. Steve has assured me that he's not moving to Hawaii. So if we need to find him, we need to look no further than a little bit further up 95, and we will know where to find him. But we have appreciated Steve's years of service, and we will recognize and talk about that as we get further into the year. But as I say, quite possibly the worst kept secret in the Tri-Town schools that it is Mr. Greenberg's final year in seat. So
congratulations, Steve. We know you'll be at the Old Newbury Golf Course where we could find you dragging off the 9th hole.
I was going to say, I don't know who's tearing up more, you or Dave Larson.
Real question is, the one date that's not on that calendar is when's the retirement party?
Right? We haven't picked that yet.
Yeah.
Right?
I defer to the powers that be.
Yes. And if you say nice things, please don't, because then we have to build a bigger door to get his head into at 6 o'clock. So try to avoid nice comments, please, because then I have to listen to them when he comes into the office. So.
Exactly. We won't make this the LeBron James retirement tour. We have to say something nice about him at each meeting. Exactly. We'll just wait till the end.
Wait till the end. So that is a big thing moving forward. The John Guilfoyle PR, we can table that. That was something that would have needed a 3-town handhold, and we don't have that at the moment. So it's not necessary to put this committee through the activity of learning more about that, because we currently don't have a 3-town handhold on that. And we can come back to surplus at the end. And then we've already talked about our next meeting date is September the 4th. So those are just some quick hits, Mr. Prazar, and then hand it back over to you for item number 5.
Sure. So a topic that's come up amongst discussion amongst many of the committee members is student cell phone, but also I will say student device, since the proliferation of Apple Watches and smart watches and things like that has also become very prevalent in our elementary schools, especially. Well, I'll get off my soapbox, but there is Dr. Morrison, do you know what the current state of the legislation is? So I believe it passed the state Senate that There is a ban on all student technology use, I think K through 12, which now needs to go to the House for passage, and it would require schools to develop a policy wherein students have to either lock up or put in a pouch outside the classroom door any phone or smartwatch that they might have with them.
Yes.
Melissa, I know this was something that you were very interested in. If you want to bat lead off here, I mean, certainly that is something I'm concerned about. I have now, well, I have one Masco student now, and I know phones are very a big part of student life at Masco. And I do know that certainly at Proctor, in the past, there have been issues with like parents contacting students on their smartwatch during the school day, which doesn't seem appropriate as far as I'm concerned. But Alyssa, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, I mean, I think in many ways the research is pretty clear that smartphones, although distraction in general is really driven by like the number of notifications and that people's attention is really becoming divided when they have these interruptions that can come up. And I think it can impact kids. It was just so interesting to me to hear that like, the well-being and mental health kind of popped up in 2022 because like yes, it was after COVID, but that's also like people say the cliff for mental health and cell phones was really like 2015. And so that's also kind of like correlated in my mind, right? We did like 2016 and then 2022. I feel like I'm rambling. But on a personal note, my school put everything in a Yonder pouch this year, and they are older kids, it's 7 through 12, but it was just so incredibly transformative, and the kids appreciated so much, I think, and grew so much from not having their phones. And there were, of course, like exceptions and workarounds, and we're dealing with a younger student population, but I just feel like it's a moral imperative at this point to take a stand as a school and say that, while they're in school, kids are safe with us and parents can get in touch with them, the way they used to through the office. And that the devices should be left for after school hours. On a separate note, I'm also more interested in kind of that like attention and dopamine reinforcement coming through the apps on the iPads, and just wanted to be mindful and bring up like paying attention to how much time students are spending on an iPad every day, especially at like the really young ages, and making sure that the apps that they're choosing don't have that kind of like gamification built in, which I know is really hard to avoid, but those would be my two soapboxes.
Andrew, by way of sorry, I was just going to give you the update to your original question, just because I had pulled that around the cell phone in school bill. That's bill number S2561. The original bill language was incorporated into a new bill, along with language from various other cell phone restriction bills. Senate S2561 was engrossed and moved swiftly on July 31st, 2025, with few amendments. MASS, which is the superintendent organization's staff, have met with elected members and staffers to discuss concerns with S2561 and will be preparing a red line version for House leadership. While many of MASS's initial concerns pertaining to the original language were addressed in S2561, there remain areas that need refinement, and the House will be in place to address additional concerns once they're back from their August break. So just to answer your original question of like where do things stand, Senate passed it. MAS had feedback from superintendents that, some things got into the S bill and some things they want to, add with as it goes to the House. And when they return from, I always find it funny that they call it recess. When they return from recess in August, they will be taking that up at the state level as well. And then my guess would be around cell phones. MASC will come out, your guys' organization will come out with policy language for us to look at as well. So it seems like, Alyssa, to your point, it's great that it's heading in that direction. I think last year at this time, we were talking about the anxious generation and, all that book and the feedback that we were seeing from that book. And if you don't already sign up for Jonathan Haidt's newsletter. I would highly recommend it. It's called After Babel, Babel. And I get a daily or once every 2 day entry into his newsletter. And, you know, like today's, for instance, really resonated with me because it talked about first we gave AI our tasks, and now we're giving it our hearts, right? And as we talk about all of these things, you talk about the dopamine pieces and you talk about technology and things along those lines. When I read this, it was either yesterday or today when it came in, Sam Altman was, or he is the CEO of ChatGPT. And basically what he says in the newsletter is people talk about the most personal, and then he uses a 4-letter word that starts with SH in their lives to ChatGPT. People use it, young people especially use it as a therapist, a life coach, having these relationship problems and asking, what should I do? And right now, if you talk to a therapist or a lawyer or a doctor about these problems, there's legal privilege for it. There's doctor-patient confidentiality, there's legal confidentiality, and we haven't figured that out yet for ChatGPT. And so, you know, all of this stuff is just moving so very quickly. And again, I think it tends to be more middle high, but we too tend to start to see some of these things emerge as kids get around 9, 10, 11, 12, or, you know, an age range that certainly pertains to us. But so just, you know, that's another thing for us to think about as we move, you know, into the AI world and the VR world and how all that impacts things for sure.
So in terms of, you know, a timeline and logistics, it sort of sounds like the path forward would be assuming that the House takes action relatively quickly in September. And I know that's always sort of the, you know, state government moving quickly in any direction can be a fool's errand. But Mask would probably have a recommendation for policy out fairly quickly, do we think?
I would think so, Andrew.
My guess is they've got a draft already sitting there based on what they know.
I would think that and a lot of districts have, you know, done some things already.
And so would your sort of recommendation be to wait for that and then take it to our policy subcommittee and then have us develop to tweak the mask policy to fit our TTU?
Yeah, I mean, part of me wonders, you know, when you do things like this, you know, there's policy that will emerge from it, but it's also, you know, from a school committee lens, is there a subcommittee that wants to, you know, do some conversation with parents? I think as opposed to saying, you know, here's the new policy. I think if people feel that they were maybe a part of it and had an opportunity to get some feedback to the school committee, because I think it would be interesting. It's similar to like the surveying we did, you know, back in 16 and 22, and it's like, okay, we're now enacting on the agenda that, you know, folks had communicated to us was important for their school district. I don't know, and I throw this to the committee as a thought, but, you know, getting some feedback from constituents and hearing from constituents.
I think that parent anxiety is it's hard to really make the bold decision when parents' anxiety around school shooters or some emergency or something comes into play. I think it's really hard to have those conversations around like, we are going to take away, if we go this way, like, or the state is going to take away your ability to communicate with your kid, which is like what I think most parents are really, really afraid of. And I think that level of nuance and understanding, unless you've kind of like read the books and or have a therapist or something, is hard to convey. Because I think, I don't know, in my school, we did it the opposite way. We just said like, this is the right thing to do for the kids. We are protecting the kids. Like, we know there's going to be an uproar. We know there's going to be pushback, and please have those conversations with us. I think it's more about like the school is going to be on the front line more so. So, you know, the principals and the school adjustment counselors or whoever it's going to be are going to be the ones to have to like field those conversations and manage that parent anxiety a little bit. So I would rather see it in the handbook for this year, to be honest. I just think it's like very clearly the right thing to do for the kids.
I agree with Alyssa. Hopefully the state will do the right thing in short order and kind of take it out of our hands, wondering if there would still be any appetite among the committee that if for some reason there wasn't a state ban, and I'm shocked that it's taken Massachusetts this long to do it, looking at the other states that have done it already, I can't believe it, but would there still be an appetite if Massachusetts didn't move forward for us to do it anyway, knowing that it's, the right thing to do for the kids?
Obviously, you know where I stand.
Alyssa and I have spent a lot of time talking about this. I also think doing it in our district, right, in K through 6 makes it so much easier.
Yes.
In 7 through 12, if it's just kind of the way it is, and we don't have phones and we don't have watches, then it's not this, giant deal to lose them, right? When they go on to high school, I think it removes a lot of social pressure for kids to get phones early. And I think it's almost, I know that not as many kids at our grade level have them, but I think it's almost, more important to just kind of set that tone right off the bat at a young age.
No, I agree. I understand the parent anxiety aspect of things, but given the time and effort we have put into, and I say we, but I really mean the central office in the district in terms of Crisis Go and all the other communication apps and things that we have, those that has already been thought through. In terms of putting in a handbook, my guess is we don't have time to draft something and get it in before September. When does the or Carol, when does the handbooks go to the parents if they haven't already?
They haven't already. They go send them home in the first week of school because of all the sign-offs.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Right, it comes with the meet.
And the dreaded yellow cards are over there.
Can I ask a clarifying question, Andrew?
Yeah.
So what is the committee hoping to change? Because currently its cell phones are in backpacks, right? And so it's really around the watches, because we can't control the biggest issue, Adrian, is really on the buses, right? Because some kids do need the cell phones for after school purposes. So is it really more of a focus on the watches, and if they have a cell phone, instead of in backpacks, it's in a central location? Just for clarification, somebody asked
again,
the difference.
So right at the elementary level, my understanding is that yes, the phones are not out in the classrooms at Proctor or at Stewart. So at the elementary level, my concern is more either gaming on a small watch and or getting communications from outside of school on the watch. Honestly, as a and I know it's a different scenario, as a camp director, I hate it when campers are directly communicating with their parents via a device, because then plans change and the people who are in charge of them during the day don't know where they're going, or don't know that something's changed because the parents do not, because the kid knows, the adults know, and that's not always how it works. So yeah, I think it would be mostly focused around, I don't know, Alyssa, this is your I shouldn't put it on you. But I would say my main concern at the K through 6 level is the watches, because I believe there's pretty good enforcement of cell phone use in the classroom already as it is.
And I think it's just us saying to the community, we are a phone-free school. We believe that phones belong in the backpacks and they will stay there all day. So it's not necessarily, I think the conversation we had last fall was this isn't a problem, we don't need to address it. But I think we also don't know what it's going to look like. And I feel while we're here and some of us feel strongly about it, that we're in this position to do the best thing for the kids, and we should just say it.
So what would your proposal be in terms of what to put in the handbook?
Yeah, the policy is that all, however we want to describe it, remain in the backpacks for all time, and then these are the disciplinary steps if they're not.
Alyssa, do you think backpacks is even enough? You and I've looked at the same data, even something in a backpack, just that student knowing that it's there proven distraction.
Right.
Proven impact on academics, proven impact on everything. I'm not trying to make more work for anybody in the schools, but it's I don't think that's enough.
That could get a little tricky in the sense of if it's in the backpack and we don't know it, right? How would we, if we're putting it in a, I forget what those holders are called.
Yonder pouches.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
If a child says, no, I don't have it, we don't want to be searching backpacks. That's not how we should be starting the year, by looking in backpacks to see if there's a cell phone there for sure. So I think that's just a piece we want to.
I think the backpack, I think it gets us like 98%
Yeah.
of the way there. I wouldn't let like perfect be the enemy of good or whatever the phrase is.
Yeah, are backpacks in the classroom or they're in lockers? I guess it depends on the school.
Oh, that's true. They're in
In the
lockers.
classroom too. Yeah.
But I mean, it's going to fall on the principals. So,
Yeah, the reason why I asked the clarifying question is because I'm not sure how much of a shift it will be for parents, except that it's an extension of not only the phone, but the watches. Do you know what I mean? Because
right. Yeah.
feel like that messaging to parents actually might not be as difficult. I mean,
Mhm.
our biggest loss, and I don't think we'll ever have control over that piece, around the cell phones, but I think we might have a little less of a shift because it's okay. We started with a cell phone and now we have actually a pair of sunglasses that can do everything my phone does. So
Mhm.
Right.
I mean, I think maybe it's just a more generalized of it's whatever can, communicate with the outside world stays in your backpack. Because literally
Smart device. Yeah.
the new great glasses, you can do everything
Right.
from your glass. So maybe it's not a new message. It's just to include the whatever else piece of technology is coming out tomorrow.
Yeah.
Hey, Adrian, you want to say something?
Yeah, I think there's always the outlier too of the kids that will need a cell phone for medical purposes as well, because some of especially students with that are diabetic will need that because it could be an insulin reader. So I think there's always going to be a slight caveat to whatever we propose just for the medical purposes alone.
And do you have experience with this in your previous districts? I know you were upper, middle in some phases and stuff like that. Is this a conversation that was being had in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, it was pretty tricky. Students that needed medically were mostly appropriate with it, but the temptation's always great, and there's always time that kids will occasionally use it for non-medical purposes, but most students and parents understood that there was a small subgroup of kids that needed it not for academic reasons but more medical. But I think it's always important to outline that as well, because sometimes people are very literal and they'll assume that the bill is whatever we say is what it is regardless. So it's good to kind of put that little piece in there.
Yeah, and I think just a couple thoughts. Just we're talking one, it would be the committee may want to have just a one-pager talking points, just in case any of you ever get a call or an email, just so you're all, as Andrew said, sort of singing from the same hymnal book, so to speak, in the sense of that, particularly if we're not going to do like a survey or feedback or anything on those lines, and just sort of say, hey, this is the path we're taking. I think having a one pager of, hey, you might not be aware the House has passed a bill. We're just trying to get out in front. We've always tried to get out in front of things before they get to us. And Senate passed a bill. It's going to the House. It's all signs are pointing towards this happening. And you might not be familiar with, but this great book called The Anxious Generation. And I think just having a set of talking points, just in case there's either feedback along the way or something along those lines, or you get an individual call or whatever the case may be, that may be a think about for the committee. And then Brendan serves, I was just looking at the organizational design chart. Brendan is the handbook rep. And so, every year we have a handbook member of the school committee who sits with the principals and looks through the handbook to make sure everything's looking good, the dates are right, and is there any other new language that we need to look or add to. So I don't know if we want to get sort of a document going with some ideas. Obviously, you can't, all be in the document at the same time, but if a document was started and people had some ideas on language that Brendan could then work with the principals on, and we could certainly help as the administrative team as well in terms of some language. I think keeping it as simple as we can and not making it too complicated might be the best path forward. But I don't know, Andrew, those are just some ideas off the top of my head. Happy to take them or leave them. I'm not married to any of them.
My only question is, do changes to the handbook need to be approved by the school committee? Or is that something that we empower the handbook committee to take care of?
Yeah, it's typically we have, that's why we have a policy subcommittee, right? Because that way we don't have to have the whole committee, write the policy and approve the policy. It's why you have a handbook representative of the school committee. So that handbook person would, and then, certainly this year, we might want to bring the handbook to the first September meeting and just have the committee review and approve the handbook. That way there's sort of a little bit of oomph behind it for sure.
All right, then I will happily nominate Alyssa and Emily to work on some language
Sure.
that then we can send to Brendan and the principals to look over in their respective roles as part of the handbook committee. Brendan, you haven't said anything. Do you want to chime in, or are you happy
No,
with the direction of the conversation?
I fully support no phones in schools. It's really bad at Masco. I know, very different, but I've seen kids text their parents to come pick them up, every day. It happens. So if we get to it, in sixth grade, where it seems like kids are starting to get cell phones, then they'll know like this isn't going to happen if you go to Masco. So personally, my son does have a watch, but I think it's on him to make sure he puts it on after school. So that's really the only reason I want him to have it. So I think if we keep the watches in the bags too, it shouldn't be a problem. It's really on the parents to tell their kids to, make sure they put them back on. So no, I fully support zero tolerance of cell phones and electronic devices.
Spoken like a true enforcer of the law. Adrian.
I do know that the connection between a smartwatch and phones are a pretty sizable range. So even if a kid has a smartwatch on and they got their phone in their bag, as long as they're fairly close in proximity, it's not going to really deter the connection between that. So that's another kind of thing to think about as well.
Yeah, they could be smart devices in the bag. I think if, to Carol's point, like it's, if it's a pair of sunglasses, it's a hoodie now that has a smart device on it. You know what I mean? Like everything is going to become, the dishwasher smart, the refrigerator smart. Hopefully no one rolls in with a refrigerator, but all of those things are smart. And I think if we just leave it more as smart devices as opposed to cell phones, you might have a better shot
Like
at
internet connected devices or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of our talking points, like being from someone who like does some of the school safety stuff, but more Brendan, I'd love to hear from you. I think the important thing is like, if there is an emergency, like you really want the kids paying attention to the adults who they are with and not trying panicked to reach their mom. It's like, we will get through the crisis, but like, please, your teachers know what to do, or the
Right. Yeah, I think we just reiterate our school safety plans, where I think we should have some of the best in the area. So I think that's just on me. Maybe put some of that in the one page or two that, our school safety is top notch. So I think just add some of the, the crisis go, make sure everybody should be familiar with it, but just in case, just add that stuff in there that give the parents a peace of mind. Because you're right, the anxiety is insane with our parents.
And Topsfield is a very safe community. Like,
right.
And things can happen anywhere, but
Listen, Emily, I would just say to you that, that language is out there somewhere. I've seen it, right? So I think when you guys draft, like in the talking points, whatever, if you were to Google, someone's already figured this out, right? Even I think I can look at some of the Jonathan Haidt newsletters that I get from him, like that's been addressed, right? There's language on how to address that with people. So that there's no need to, let's say, reinvent the wheel, because that exists for sure.
and same for the handbook, we can pull together, places in the different communities.
And then Carol and Adrian, I think just at your opening staff meeting, you just want to highlight, obviously that section, hey, just an handbook update language that school committee's been working on and subcommittees have been working on that we've now put into the handbook. And again, I think for staff, this idea of it's coming anyway.
The thing I've only heard from teachers is like, they don't want to have to be the ones to police it too much, or that's.
Yeah, I think the good news that, again, at our age, it's not.
Yeah.
So Brendan's point, the proliferation of it is big at middle and high. I think it'll be sparse here.
All right, so Emily and Melissa, are you comfortable with taking the lead?
Yeah,
Awesome.
I'm still off next weekend. And would love to address the iPads at some future date. Thank you.
Yes, yeah, we get I think that's probably a conversation to have also with Peggy present, because there's a curriculum aspect to it. And that's not trickier, but just given the nature of those programs in general, it's harder to create a policy without having some curriculum expertise in there.
I think Julie would be a part of that, along with the principal.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
You know, I think our goal has always been, overarching goal has always been, we look at it as we have enough devices to be one-to-one, but we're not a one-to-one. Like, you know, there are places that, okay, take out your Chromebook for math, science, social studies, English, like we have always viewed it as like a piece of paper or a pencil. Like, okay, for this task, we need pencils and markers and crayons. Everyone go to the center and get your markers and crayons. For this task, we need the iPad and a folder. Go get your iPad and folder. It's viewed, I think, the way we have tried to always do it, and it's certainly something we can review and discuss for sure, is it's just one other piece of school supply that we use when needed, not use every minute of every day.
All right. So can we wrap this particular line of discussion? Not to push people along. I just haven't had dinner yet. I'm getting cranky. So next would be Proctor surplus lists.
Yes. So in the drive, there are, let's see. No, not on the drive. It's just Words Their Way. We have some it's just a standalone PDF document. We had some Words Their Way materials at surplus for Proctor. Number of copies you can see. It's titled, the name of the document is Words Their Way Material Surplus Proctor. So we would just need a motion to surplus. This was originally from Sarah. I double checked it with Peggy. And so these are all surplus materials at Proctor School that we would need a motion for.
All right, I will make a motion to designate the materials listed as surplus.
Second.
All those in favor, Andrew Prazar, aye.
Emily King, aye.
Melissa Gustin, aye.
Brendan Gahagan, aye.
On a similar but slightly different note, I assume, I shouldn't say assume, have all our intro to reading our new curriculum supplies and all that stuff been ordered, and then they coming in?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Bills and payroll. Is there any bills and payroll, Steve? Did you not? I was looking down. Sorry.
No, Ryan is out, so we'll get them on the next
Okay.
on the summary sheet.
And Andrew, just a quick before we go that's okay. Just before we go to minutes, just wanted to alert the committee that our colleagues, our great colleagues at TPD, Topsfield Police Department, will be doing some training exercises at Proctor School on the 18th of August. I've been talking with Chief Hubby, Captain Bell. Brennan, I'm sure could speak to it even further, but they have reached out to us, and Adrian, and on that day, we'll be kind of closing the building to any visitors around 12 o'clock or so, just so our police can conduct some training exercises at Proctor. So if you see any activity down there on 8/18, know that it's training and exercise. Detective Gahagan, over to you.
Yes, it's going to be, it's pretty exciting. It's been over 10 years since we were able to do a drill inside Proctor. So speaking on the parent anxiety and all that stuff. So it's good timing, but yeah, very exciting. We'll be doing all drill on Monday the 18th. We'll be doing PowerPoint stuff at our station prior to that, but yeah, very excited. We usually do a joint one with Boxford and Middleton at Masco. So now we're just doing Topsfield at Proctor. So it's going to be great.
I'll be down at some point, Brendan, just to kind of check in.
Say it again. Sorry.
I'll be down at some point just to check in.
Awesome. Yes, please. Anybody welcome to come down.
Make sure the officers take him gently when he walks in the door.
We might need role players. You never know.
Anything else, Scott, before we get to
No, that was my only other Andrew. I just
Okay.
wanted to, if you see activity down there on the 18th, know that it's planned.
Sound good. Thank you. All right, so we have our minutes from our June 5th meeting to approve. Oh, actually, and our June 26th.
Yeah.
Quick one. Any additions or comments to those minutes?
No.
All right, so I will make a motion to accept the June 5th Topsfield School Committee minutes.
Second.
All those in favor, Andrew Prazar, aye.
Emily King, aye.
Melissa Gustin, aye.
Brendan Gahagan, aye.
And I will make a motion to accept our meeting minutes from June 26th.
Second.
All those in favor, Andrew Prazar, aye.
Emily King, aye.
Melissa Gustin, aye.
Brendan Gahagan, aye.
And if there's no other business, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that. Because I can't make those motions anymore. Andrew Prazar, aye.
Emily King, aye.
Melissa Gustin, aye.
Brendan Gahagan, aye.
I guess I can, but it feels like self-serving as the chair to make the motion to adjourn. I feel like someone else should do that. Thank you all very much. We will see you in September, if not sooner.